All right, well, let me call the meeting to order then. Let's see. Let me call the meeting of, what is today? Tuesday, November 29th, 2022 at 2 p.m. Calling to order the Texas Judicial Compensation Commission meeting officially. And Megan Lavoie, if you would please call the roll.
Sure. Chairman Solomons.
Here.
Mr. Amaral.
Here.
Justice Borland.
Here.
Ms. Clements. Mr. Davis. Mr. Fideli.
I'll accept a thumbs up if you don't want to
Yes.
unmute.
Justice Johnson. Ms. Kinney.
Here.
And Mr. Nelson. And I know Justice Johnson's here. I saw him. Yes. I believe, yes. Okay. Yes, we have a quorum.
Okay, and thank you for, it looks Judge Alfonso Charles is also here.
Excuse me, I forgot to unmute, Megan.
No problem, Justice Johnson. I got you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your attendance and for the good work we've done so far. I just want to ask for approval of the August 4th, 2022. Can't believe it's been that long. It's already, that meeting was our last one. Could I get a motion for approval of those minutes, or if there's any adjustments to be made, now would be the time to do so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
Ms. Clements, I think.
Yes, I second. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, good, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, you can give me a thumbs up, or if you, that would be enough, and I'll look. Okay, and, or if you want to speak, you can say yes.
Yes, for
Okay.
Johnson.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. It's unanimously approved then, Megan. Well, just to give you an update on what's happened since we last met, the Megan and her team, who are absolutely wonderful, went to work putting together a very thorough report from, I hope you've been able to go over it and take a look at all of the parts. The key things that I had mentioned in terms of presentation that I felt were important was trying to make it politically palatable to get through the governor's office, trying to get it in the special order items so that it'll be, or get it through the legislature and the governors, but more the legislature in the budget process. But get it, it is on the special items. That has been done. I went to Austin to testify before the LBB. Megan, you can always give the acronym. What
Legislative Budget Board, yes.
Yeah. So basically, if you're not familiar with that, I'd like to just tell you that it's representatives of the budget committee, basically of the state, meaning that there's representative by the governor's office, the committee, the House, and the Senate all had people there to listen to the testimony. It was relatively short testimony because I and maybe one other were the only ones who testified for these special items to be added. And so made the trip to Austin. Thankfully, even though there was a long traffic delay, I made it just in time to give my testimony. And they were very complimentary of the work, very appreciative, and that we came and made a point to explain what our issues were. There's a couple of questions that had to do with something that Megan later worked out. It had to do with the technicality, I think, of how certain parts of are paid, but in general, it was well received, and even said publicly and privately, they came to me and they told us they appreciate our work and how we presented it. The hard part for Megan's team was that we, in order to be politically adept or adroit is to say that the 2-year split, the 11 and 11, makes it more palatable. We know that gives them a landing point that they may just settle for 11% overall, but it also doesn't come out in such a negative tone as asking for a 22% raise, even though we know that that's ultimately where we would like to get. The 11% is also being talked about in terms of the kinds of numbers you're hearing around the state and the world in terms of inflation. And so it keeps it in line with something that I think is very doable. The governor's office was favorable towards our report as well when I spoke to governor. And so I do think that extra work to show those numbers and the way that the committee did that was very good. They also hid the fact, not hid, they laid the product or the idea that we're comparing to other states in the context of the whole versus just comparing to the 5 top, which they did, but that was not highlighted. And so we weren't saying, hey, we're trying to be California, we're not trying to be New York, those states that, nobody wants to be like, so to speak, at least on the Republican side of the aisle for sure. And so I think the way we've put it in there without highlighting and making a big issue of that, but making it known was well done in the way that staff did that. So those things that were of concern to me that are really about how do we get this passed, I think have been dealt with very well. So at this time, I would like to open up for any discussion that any of you have, specifically comments, questions, ideas, anything you'd like to talk about with Megan, that we can still edit this. We've got a couple of days, and then we will be looking for final passage of our recommendation to go officially to the governor's office and to the legislature for hopefully adoption, at least consideration of this budget item.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Carlos.
First of all, I want to commend that team, Megan and his team. This is a really well written, really well crafted report. It looks fantastic. I mean, I like the graphic. I like the way you explain. I mean, the only thing which sounds like the same thing that you heard is that we didn't, when we compare, even though it's by law, we compare to New York and California, is if we were to do a cost of living adjustment between New York versus Texas versus New York and California and so on. But other than that, I mean, that is a beautiful report. I mean, I'm definitely excited to help promote this thing. I mean, that's just well done.
And I will add, and I'm very sorry, I've been sick, my voice is out, but we can't, the National Center for State Courts does do that judicial salary survey, and it was included in one of your PowerPoint materials. And they do it every 6 months. And we do have a graphic that shows the adjusted ranking where Texas would rank based on cost of living. But obviously, in the past a couple of years, Texas has gotten significantly more expensive, not necessarily in line with New York or California, but closer in line. And so that is something that we could include in the report too, along with the other graphics if y'all would like.
Thank you, Megan.
If that's, if nobody has an objection, I think that's okay to add.
Great, we'll add that.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon.
Yes, Tony, thank you for joining.
Yeah, again, I think that the presentation is phenomenal. It's very well laid out, very clean. Your comment in your email, we talked, I think, somewhat extensively about it at the meeting with the representatives from TDCAA related to, and obviously by law, the district attorney salaries are going to go up if this occurs, right? That's not really the push we need to make. It's already tied together. But relates to that longevity issue, which I think was something that Mr. Keppel and Miss Culpepper visited about. And I think you left some space maybe for the conversation today as to whether we wanted to. The committee's sense in my mind, or if I recall, wasn't that doesn't need to be the thrust of the report because that's not our job, right? But is there a benefit to the judiciary as a whole if we put that in there just so that TDCA can use that as that we recognized it and that we think it's at least worth a discussion point. And frankly, of the 8 factors, the most important factor is, and I'm turning to read here, the level of overall compensation adequate to attract the most highly qualified individuals. Well, if you're going to have individuals who have been district attorneys, for example, and maybe the most highly qualified, does allowing that longevity, that parity was the term I think they used, does having that parity help? And I think it probably does. And I don't know what the downfall would be to that. So I just throw that out there. So
You have you've just jumped ahead in the agenda a little bit, which is fine. And no, it's great because it's your comment and it's appropriate. So I was going to ask for the addendum on that and get we can do that right now just to make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about. It only goes to, for the example of if a DA were to decide to retire and try to run to be a judge, he would start over now. He would not keep his time. That's the current law. So we're just making the additional recommendation in agreement with the DA's Association that made the recommendation to grant them equal time, or to keep their time served as a state employee, essentially in the same way. I without objection, I would add that note. It's not our primary focus, but I do think it's good to show that we're looking at the totality of the judiciary and how we would like to encourage good pay and good servants. So I am recommending that we add that in our special notes, and without objection, I'll wait for objection unless someone wants to do that. Okay, so Megan, hearing
second
none.
the motion.
Okay, I don't think it has to be a motion. I think we're just going to say that it's added in our special notes.
Yes, so we left a spot in for other recommendations, and we will include that in there.
Awesome.
I think one of the things that I highlighted at the testimony was the fact that the people voted that we wanted higher longevity and qualifications out of our judges in the last amendment. And if we're going to ask for that, we need to also compensate for that. So that's one of those additional issues that we had in there, that we're trying to say, look, the people have spoken, they want there to be more experience, we need to pay for that experience. So I don't know if that's a special note or if that's just part of it. I know it's in there already, but maybe a highlight of the fact that Texas, I'm sorry, the amendment to the Constitution, I believe, or not, maybe not, just was it?
Yeah, so I can't remember exactly what section it is in there, but it does talk about, I think early in the report, that constitutional amendment was passed. It actually doesn't go into effect it goes into effect for judges elected or appointed after January 1st of 2025. So it's the upcoming judges that it would apply to. So it is in there. We could definitely add it in the executive summary into the findings, because I think that is judges are going to have to be more qualified to run for office or to be eligible for appointment here in the very near future. And so we could add a bullet in the findings, which is the basis for your decisions or your recommendations. So we could do that.
That would be great if you don't mind adding that. That was my only thought, was one of the points we made. And I definitely got head nods out of the budget committee on that when we spoke of it. And I say budget committee because we all know the staffer who really do all this hard work anyway, and that's who was there. So they were listening and being positive. Yes, Cindy. Judge Olson, sorry. Judge Borland, Olson Borland.
I answer to all. I would, on the bullet point of the constitutional amendment, I think that's that's both informative and a strong point supporting our recommendation, because that's really a context issue. The context of this report is not only in light of, there's been such a long number of years without any increase, cost of all of those things, but that really dovetails, and that really shows, I think, that the people of Texas want their judges to be well qualified. So I would put that bullet point front and center.
Okay, other general comments about those were the two additions. Thank you, Tony, for bringing that up, and also the one that I just talked of. So those were my thoughts. Any other general comments from you all? Judge Charles, do you approve of the report? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah.
I only call you out because you weren't able to attend the hearing, and I know you normally do. So I do that only just out of respect for your long-serving role in this.
Well, I appreciate that, but no, I do approve of the report, and also I like the suggestions you made. I think the part with the district attorneys being willing to move them up. That's how the law was until 2019, that they had the same salary as a district judge. And I think we've noticed in this past election cycle, there were a few elected DAs in smaller counties that chose not to run for judge because they would be taking a significant pay cut. So I think that's appropriate to get the best qualified.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be leaving that to the District Attorneys Association to try to spearhead that on the legislative point, but we're just making comment that we're in agreement with that in support of their work, but they'll be doing the legislation in another piece. Okay. Well, then I'm going to, I don't want to cut anybody short, but I also don't want to waste your time. So I appreciate, this is a distinguished panel of people, and I certainly want to be respectful of that. So speak now or ever hold your peace, and then we'll go ahead and make our recommendation if I can do that. So, okay, I'm asking for a motion to adopt the report as presented with the adjustments that we have currently made in this most recent discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so Nelson and Armroll, okay. And just to save you having to do your mutes, I'll take a thumbs up as a sign of your approval. And if yeah, and if you aren't showing your picture, then speak up and say so. Okay, I think we're unanimous, so thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Megan, what else should we cover? Is there anything else we need to cover with this august body?
No, we'll make those edits, and then we'll send out the report to y'all so you have it, and we'll post it on our website and send it to legislative leadership and the governor's office as required by statute. And then the fun part starts for the session and trying to communicate the reason why the commission made these recommendations and settled on that number. And we will provide updates throughout session to y'all. And if you want to be involved in that process, let Chair Solomons know or let me know, and we will definitely put you to work.
So
Definitely count on me.
Yeah, so Carlos Amaral, I want to say, made the recommendation, which has not been the norm, but is certainly welcomed, and that is that we serve as lobbying, not officially, technically, but lobbying arms of those people in power and people that you work with that may have opportunity to impact this decision. just give them a ring, send them a copy of the document and say, there's a reason we've done this, and these are the 5 reasons, and we really think it needs to be pushed along. I know I'll be doing that with at least 3 or 4 senators that I know personally, and then the same on the House side. So it's not mandated by the role that you play, but it's also not you're not prohibited from sharing your findings. And so that is different than in the past, but I am asking you to feel free to share what you've done and move forward with that. I think that's a good idea. Megan, is there anything else that I need to mention?
That's it.
Okay.
I just had one final question, Mr. Chairman. That's
Yep.
maybe better for Megan. Once we receive the next copy of the report from you, are we free to disseminate that?
Yes, and then
Okay.
we'll also provide you with the link where it will be posted on the website. So you can either share the PDF of the report, you can share the link, whichever y'all choose.
Wonderful.
And I don't know if they'll we're one line item on a billion piece budget. So I don't know if we'll be called on to testify again, but I do feel like we're at least on record with the budget committees, the LVB. If we are called to do so, I'll be happy to come back down and do that again to the Senate or whichever budget committee you feel is appropriate.
Yeah, we will know closer to when they set those budget hearings of, they've done it both ways in the past where they just had the comptroller judiciary section state what the exceptional item is. And then they've also had it for the previous chair. He did testify one session before both committees. So we'll just have to see what they would like this session, but we'll definitely keep you updated on that and when those requests come in.
Well, thank you all again for your time and your input. It's greatly appreciated. I'll adjourn the meeting now and wish you all